live from Trinidad and Tobago.
Welcome to Connections 50 Plus Wednesdays live show.
I am Terri Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph. Hi, good evening all to all our Caribbean family to Connections 50 Plus Wednesday live show. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, and as usual with me is my colleague.
Hi, this is Terri Ann Joseph Brathwaite. Nice to meet you all again, seeing you, everyone in the Caribbean. And yes, this is my habit now, Jennifer. I'm going to do the rules.
That's why I left that to you. I just did the general welcome.
I'm going to be a little bit more specific, and I'm going to play fast and try and call some more places. So welcome to our Facebook audience. Welcome to our YouTube audience. Welcome to our Guyana audience, the Caribbean, from the continent of North America, Central America, where we find Belize in the west, and across the Greater Antilles chain, Cuba, Jamaica, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico. No, I didn't leave out any of that.
I hope not. You have people listening to see if you miss out anyone, you know.
And they will teach me about geography. Then we come down to our lesser, the Lesser Antilles and the Windward Islands, Antigua and Barbuda in the west, and coming down through the French-speaking Caribbean, Guadeloupe and Martinique, to Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, Barbados in the east. And then we land at Trinidad and Tobago, but we're not finished. We go down to the nation state of Guyana, its capital, Georgetown, and its southernmost town. And my piece of paper with that Amerindian town is not in front of me, but Georgetown, last week I told you to send a message to them. It is,
yes.
We're 2 weeks before Christmas, and Jennifer, I want to say you put such a beautiful birthday greeting for me on the Facebook page, and I was literally blown away and overwhelmed by our Connections family response.
Yes.
You know, I am a birthday junkie and I am a Christmas junkie. I love you all so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I had a wonderful day. Jennifer had a party. Oh.
Yes. You need to post pictures. I forgot.
Jennifer promised you all that she will take pictures. Jennifer, check last week. You said you will take pictures of the party.
I was busy preparing for all 5 of us.
But we have a little video, and Jennifer may post a little video, but it was my kind of thing. We had fun sitting down talking about everything and anything. It was fun. We had a ball. We set for Christmas.
Yes, that's the way to celebrate your birthday. And you all may be wondering to why Terri Ann had to not learn off, but decided to call all the Caribbean islands. And last week we told you about this special things going to be happening. So we're going to chat about that in a while, and you will understand why we need to touch base with all the Caribbean islands and why she always specially mentioned Guyana.
Caribbean islands and nation states. We have 2 nation states in a continent. We have Belize and Guyana.
So in this festive season and pandemic and all the different things happening, we are happy to say that, you know, Connections 50 Plus, Terri Ann and I, we have been really working and putting things in place and not allowing the challenges of the pandemic to stop us from moving forward with our plans. Right? And I want to touch a bit, Terri Ann, that let me tell my Christmas people out there, there's some good shopping going on, you know, Terri Ann, without spending much money. Yes, I have been finding some bargains to just make the place look festive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this week I did some shopping
Mm-hmm.
and got some good bargains at very reasonable prices. And on Sunday, we actually closed Connections 50 Plus Marketplace. And at the marketplace, also I shopped. We had some cashless shopping, and I'm thanking all those in advance who participated, in that marketplace. So basically, that's what has been happening for the last week since we spoke to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So we said great things were happening.
Yes.
And Jennifer started to talk about it. Many of you would have participated in our workshops. You would have participated in some of our programs. And we have, for the last about 6 months, Jennifer, been really promoting the Essentials Toolkit and the 5.8G Reset. The Essentials Toolkit is a series of assessments that give you a baseline to prepare you for this 5.8G life, which we are really interested in. And the Reset was a bit more specific, giving you assessments, counseling, and coaching in 3 distinct areas. Well, hard work pays off, and we caught the attention of some very significant people in our southernmost Caribbean nation state, Guyana. So Jennifer, what happened?
A lot happened. So we have now, should I say, partnered in a way with ActionINVEST Incorporated, a Caribbean company based in Guyana, where chairman is Dr. Doerga, Vishnu Doerga. So we are just happy for our work to be recognized. Not just we work, but the 5.8G essential toolkit. The value of it for it to be recognized. It is a Caribbean product. We mentioned Terri Ann at the launch, and we did have the assessors on board explaining what the toolkit was all about and their part, the role that they played in it. So, would you believe we are now international, Terri Ann? What do you say?
We're
Caribbean.
And let's just let our audiences know who ActionINVEST is.
Sure.
ActionINVEST Caribbean Incorporated is the leading company in Guyana focused on training, business coaching. They are the agents for many top flight franchises. They are the Action Coach agents. They represent John Maxwell. They represent a series of other houses. The chairman of the company is a former president of the Chamber of Commerce in Guyana and is also a lecturer associated with the Arthur Lockjack Graduate School of Business. He's also associated with the University of Guyana, a very respected person. And they do a lot of work with managers and executives in business. And what attracted them to our product is this simple notion of having people prepare for life transitions. Not necessarily prepare for retirement, but prepare to transition to another phase of life, post-work, post-children, post-house, whether it's redundancy, retirement, severance, whatever it is. And they realize the gap in their portfolio, and with the future prospects in Guyana, Guyana is seen as the spot in the world that is expected to have the highest growth rate and the most activity. Dr. Doerga and his team recognize that there is going to be a need to help a lot of people transition, and being recommended by one of our guests, and they were very excited after talking to us to say, yes, we want to represent Connections 50 Plus portfolio, and we start with the Essentials Toolkit. So we are as proud as punch as Caribbean people to have, and Jennifer, what's so special about that being Caribbean? Let's talk about this toolkit and its Caribbeanness.
You know, when I hear and I'm familiar with assessments, and normally assessments are all foreign based. You go online and all the assessments either come from the USA, UK. I haven't experienced assessment that has been, I say, created locally and it's in a toolkit format. Let me put it that way. There may be some created locally, but how we have created these assessments along with our consultants, everything is local, and it started from initially from the building of our online tool to accommodate that whole registration process, etc. And we had John and we had these things before. We actually had them on board, letting you know what it's all about. But being totally local is from that start, that initial creating that program online, using our local consultants. We use Dr. Nika Joseph, who is the consultant who did the psychometric assessments. We use Maria Elias Smith, who is our not just nutritionist, dietitian, health coach, who did the health aspect. And of course, I did the financial aspect. And when we got the feedback from them, all our those who did the assessments were able to say that it worked so well with them. And I believe too, Terri Ann, is because the assessors are all Caribbean people and understood the market. So the way the questions were designed, the whole assessment, the way they were designed, is for Caribbean. When I say, yeah, it's with the Caribbean people in mind.
And I think one other thing that we have to mention, which is also a significant part of our pride, that this product is for Caribbean people and is designed by, it is that, number one, our entire website was designed and built by, it is a customized website. And also the platform on which all of our programs are run. These are not off the shelf. They were designed and built by our web developer, Jan McKell. And you would have all heard from them in previous shows. Some of you wouldn't have paid attention. You didn't realize why we were telling you all these things. Okay. And so we now understand why Dr. Doerga and his team were so happy to work with us, because it really filled the niche. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And this is to show you how global our appeal was a teacher who was based in Brooklyn, New York, who, in fact, we had a couple of people out of North America doing our assessments. But a teacher based in Brooklyn, New York, did the assessment, and here is her feedback.
My overall opinion of the Essentials Toolkit as a vehicle to help plan for my transition to my third act was that it was an eye-opener, addressing important issues normally overlooked by adults over 50. I think it was insightful and led me to think deeply about matters that are important to everyone, but especially the mature group you have chosen to work with. Each assessment honed into my specific situation. The life and transition assessment identified me as a social and artistic person who will benefit from a secondary career dealing with people and or the arts. The behavioral profile listed my personality almost to a T, especially when it described my joy for working with others and my keen interest in travel. The financial assessment report. Well, I was advised what steps to take on acquiring my total net worth, which would impact my estate planning and financial legacy for the future. Also, it highlighted the importance of having a contingency fund in the event of emergency and life insurance coverage to provide for your beneficiaries at death. Last but not least, the Health and Wellness Report. This report takes into consideration your age, height, and weight and includes your body mass index BMI to ensure that all these components are correctly aligned to define a totally healthy body. It entails a review of your diet and eating habits and assesses whether you should make viable changes. For example, I found out possible deficiencies in my diet, and a chart was made to ensure daily nutritional recommendations. Also, a fitness section was added to define your current fitness level, and I realized how much exercise and sleep are needed along with proper diet for general health and well-being. I will advise and encourage other 50 plus persons to invest in the Essential Toolkit since it can be an essential source of information. One can imagine people who have been informed financially, they would have benefited by probably having a nest egg to fall back on during these difficult times. So that's why I would advise and definitely encourage the over 50 population to ensure their future mentally, physically, and financially by purchasing this Essential Toolkit.
So now you've gotten a summary of the toolkit, so you understand what is going to be, what ActionINVEST Caribbean Incorporated is going to be selling in Guyana. You've got a sense of the persons who have promoted it, and you got feedback in terms of their opinion of what it is.
Sarah, you have just listened to Michael Gray, but now guess what? You're going to be hearing from him in person. All right. So here we have it. So Michael will come on and chat and tell you about his experience with the Essentials Toolkit.
Evening, one and all. Evening to the entire Caribbean, Terri Ann and Jennifer. Thrilled to be here.
Great having you. Yes.
So Michael, you were one of the people who did the toolkit, and you gave feedback which people just heard. So in terms of your own personal experience with the toolkit, and also in anticipation of this tool being available in Guyana, what would you say, especially to our Guyanese friends and even the rest of the Caribbean?
I'm really excited. In my former life, I'd done quite a bit of work in Guyana. In my life at the University of the West Indies, interacting with business students and interacting with managers and leaders and HR managers in some cases, as we went out to assess training needs, see how we could have customized our learning and teaching experience to the Guyanese reality. And the fact that this has now come along in a quite a serendipitous kind of way it just goes to show that my personal belief that we are one people in the Caribbean just continues. As my students would have told you, the first time they see me, I'm normally in a West Indies jersey, just to make the point that we are from the University of the West Indies. And there is a whole set of synergies and potentials and shared history that we need to harness to make our region competitive, a beacon to the world, and a whole set of things that we already are, but we need to bring forth in a new and fresh way in the 21st century. So having gone through this assessment, having gone through a transition myself, the idea that I liked, that I heard, is that transition is not necessarily retirement and let's slide downhill gracefully into old age and so on. But transition can be the opening of new opportunities. It's something that I feel would resonate in the Guyanese reality, particularly because in the 10 to 12 years that I've been going there, this was before there was Exxon, before there was all this, all this hullabaloo about what's going to be happening. The reality that transition and change and development is something that only happens in a school or in a school context was something that we really sought to explode. And for me, going through this transition, which is turning out to be a very fascinating experience, and maybe there's room for another discussion. What this experience did, the toolkit, it really set me up for the next phase or the next leg of my life. And I'm hoping that we can share that reality with our colleagues and friends in Guyana, that this is not something that you do at the tail end of your career or in response to some professional tragedy. But in fact, this is a mobilizing, this is a taking stock, this is a realizing of, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm at. It's a whole new landscape ahead of me, not just personally when I take stock, but when I look at my environment, when I look at the whole promise and the scale of, I mean, everything at Guyana is huge in scale compared to where I live in Trinidad. So when I look at the scale of life, of opportunity, there is an excitement that I hope would beckon my Guyanese professionals to really contextualize this assessment as being that place where you pull aside for a little bit, take stock, and charge to go again and launch out into the future. The future is bright, it's exciting. We have the doomsdayers, we have the naysayers, but really and truly, we can flip the coin either way. And I choose to be positive. And I know we in the Caribbean, we are resilient. We've come through centuries of negative history. We're still here, we're still vibrant, we're still positive, and we can really take stock and take this to the next level. So for me, this is just a very exciting confluence of destiny, of opportunity, of knowledge, and we're ready to go post-pandemic. Let's all get ready.
With or without the pandemic?
Yeah, with or without.
Michael, we spoke about it before, Terri and I, at other previous shows, about persons who are very hesitant to move forward, to take that step forward, because they have been so used to that comfort zone. And just today we spoke about that type of situation where for years that you have in an organization, you may reach a certain level with status, etc. But that stepping out to know, okay, you are going into a next phase of life, you are transitioning. Somewhere along the line within their mindset, they just have, they hold back, you know. Why do you think, in your experience, especially maybe associated with others who have had to transition, what do you think may be the reason for them not taking that step forward?
I think sometimes it's a case of there's a lack of emotional resonance. You may know information intellectually, but sometimes until there is some event that jolts us or awakens us beyond our intellectual understanding, we then are moved to action. And we can be proactive and we could be reactive. We own motor vehicles and we know that every X thousand miles we need to go in for a service. And we go in, we take our cars in, we hook them up to the laptops and we run the diagnostic. And we're told that, okay, your combustion is good, your pressure is good, you need to change this, fix that. And if we, for a second, take a look at our lives and the vehicles that we're moving through life with, when we pull aside every now and again, and it's healthy to do that, we can then take stock as to, well, you know, what do we need if I want my vehicle to run for the next 20, 30 years? Now, sometimes we are so busy, we get so caught up, and we have life happening, we have personal life, we have work life, deadlines to meet, that we are into the routine of operations, but we don't get the chance to pull aside and take that 30,000 foot view of life and where we're going. And I think this assessment helps us to package an experience where we pull aside. Not everybody can take a weekend off and go up to the Himalayas or run to some inland retreat and, you know, just think about life. but we can find some time to conduct some assessments. Let's say you put aside 3 hours, not necessarily continuous hours, and you go through these assessments and receive package feedback. Again, it's not a 4-hour session of feedback. You get a generated report, concise, hitting the key issues, and then there's a follow-up coaching session that we can experience with a real-life person. I think for me, the personalization of the feedback and helping to put this information into context is something that really, really, really was valuable to me. So I think the ability or to find an opportunity to escape the routine, not that because we're sometimes not feeling the need for it immediately, or we're not feeling the sense of crisis. We may be just hooked into the rhythm of a routine. But this Connections 50 toolkit enabled me to have a really package. It's like a package tour. You could just pay for a tour to sandals and everything is handled.
I love that.
Or you could go and, research everything, where to go, what flight, what am I going to eat, where I'm going to rent a car, and all of that pre-planning could be just circumvented by just book a package somewhere with a tour, and everything is organized. I think this makes it as streamlined and as efficient as possible for a busy professional, plenty of responsibilities, not much time to really set aside for that dimension of self-care as we would like. This experience packages it in an efficient package that makes it easy and very, very effective to engage.
Yeah. Well said. That is making that. No, I love that analogy with the car. That is what we need to do.
Take a tour of yourself.
Yeah. And this is why we created the toolkits. I'm so happy that you put it like that. It is a fact.
Yeah. When Jennifer and I had the conversations with Dr. Doerga, and again, because our toolkit is so very personalized. Yes, it is fully digital. I mean, you do your assessment. It is the results of the assessment are looked at by our assessors, and they think of you, the person who responded to this, and they make recommendations for your life going forward. And as Michael said, it ends in a consultation. So when we thought about Dr. Doerga and his view of the expanded market in Guyana and how much change was about to happen, Jennifer and I knew that we could not guarantee capacity to be able to handle because of course the ActionINVEST Caribbean Incorporated are going to be our eyes and ears and feet on the ground in the territory of Guyana. And we are constantly expanding. We realized we needed to have someone, we need to bring resources on board who could be like us, our eyes and ears, to interact with clients. And we started, we looked around and we said, who on earth is going to be able to do that? And then we said, Michael.
So Michael is ideal because Michael, I mean, you believe in the product.
He's
saw how it works.
He's in transition.
Yeah. And in transition.
And
so yes.
The market. So we are pleased to announce Michael Gray is joining our team. Especially with not only with support of us in expanding the connections portfolio through to everyone, but especially in support of working in the Guyana market, So we want to officially welcome you, Michael.
Thank you.
We are so happy and privileged that you agreed to come on board with us.
Thank you.
That's with your expertise. I mean, we're balancing just right.
Yes. So,
it's
Michael,
exciting.
Now, I know that you are also familiar with ActionINVEST Caribbean Incorporated and Dr. Doerga. So you could probably give our audience a little insight into who he is, what is this company that we're going to be associated with. And then after that, you can talk about how you see Guyana and the opportunity for us to launch the Essentials Toolbox there.
Well, I met Vishnu, this could have been 8 to 10 years ago.
We didn't know any of this before. Everybody, the furthest, we knew none of this before.
Yeah, this is really interesting. In his capacity, he was a guest lecturer at the time for us in the program I was working with. And we kept in contact off and on over the years. And from then to now, where he now has ActionINVEST and Caribbean Limited, I have seen him develop as a developer of entrepreneurs, because when we met him, he was associated with the chamber and he came to speak to students from that perspective. But he has now expanded to being an educator in his own right. And again, taking education outside of his formal confines of a classroom and bringing life and coaching to professionals in the workplace, where more and more real-time customized learning solutions and development opportunities are being looked for. Regardless of where people are located, people want to have a customized learning experience. Another thing that impressed me, there are quite a few actually, but I'll just speak to one. When he realized that a whole petrochemical revolution was coming to Guyana, he took it upon himself to run up to Aberdeen to look at, he did his research and looked at a location or a cluster environment that is similar enough to Guyana. And he went up there to scout. He looked around, he saw how industries and the complementary services were arranged, the relationships that were built, and how effectively a real-life cluster was or could be built and not necessarily replicated, but the lessons that could be learned. And this is of his own volition, his own investment, everything. And I came and said, this is a special man. This is a special human being. And even then, every week he has opportunities and workshops for entrepreneurs to come and network and share. So talk about being a visionary ahead of the curve, way ahead of the curve. That's how I would classify Vishnu in a nutshell. And so he made my life very easy as an administrator of an MBA program to just let him talk. Whatever he says, whatever he says, I didn't have to script him or prompt him. We just had to make contact. He came down and he spoke with the students, challenged them. And there's an authenticity that comes from someone who's actually walking the talk. Someone who's actually putting the theory into practice. A cluster is something you can read about from the Harvard Business Review. But when a man has picked up himself and walked around the town or a city for a week or two, coming back to see now how this can be replicated or how this can be engaged. And again, you're a former president of the chamber, you're an entrepreneur yourself. It made my life very, very easy. And it had really revolutionized or made the student learning experience really real. And it's that kind of excitement I expect to see translated into this experience. So when I heard Vishnu was the man, I said, really? This is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. As I've seen him over the years. And the last encounter we had in the classroom, I was taking notes.
You always do that.
I was taking notes. I said, wow, this is someone to follow.
And I think that really highlights and in terms of him looking at us and deciding, look, this program, this movement that we started, this 5.8G, after its retirement is not it. You're going to go into another phase. You have to get prepared. And just as you said, he picked up himself and went to Aberdeen. And we, Jennifer, we always say, we represent that person with the executive mindset. Meaning that you are ready to act. You are not prepared for whatever reason you're transitioning, whether you're retiring, whether you've been made redundant, whether you've just had to stop for family reasons, or you just get fed up. You don't want to do that again. You want to do something else. We, Jennifer and I, were driven by this and got together and built Connection 50+ on our entire suite of services. And the Essentials Toolkit is the entry point to getting ready.
Yes.
And the fact that this person that Michael so very completely and efficiently described, looked at it and said, this is the gap that I have, and I want to collaborate with these people to fill that gap for Guyana going to the future, is really testimony to what we have built, all of us collectively, and the potential of it. And, you know, Michael, you fell into our lap. We have worked together. You've worked with Nika Joseph, one of our assessors. So
yes.
God really plans everything for us. And I think if we continue to go forward, being very positive, knowing that it's down there, we just have to stay on the journey, we are going to be fine. We are going to be fine.
Yes, and that confirmed for individuals, Terri Ann and Michael, that you can't just sit down. You know, you wouldn't get anywhere. You can't move ahead if you're just sitting still.
Mm-hmm.
You have to just work your plan. Set a plan and work the plan. And the Essential Toolkit, after you have done the assessments and get those sessions with the assessors, you have a guideline. You know exactly how that's a pathway. You actually have a roadmap.
A map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What to do.
Yeah.
But you have to take that action.
Yep.
And Michael, if you didn't take that action, if we didn't take that action, we would not have been exposed and reached where we are right now, with Dr. Doerga actually agreeing, yes, he can work with us. And the toolkit is a tool to really fill that gap for him, to help those in Guyana who need the help.
Yeah. And Michael, I want to ask you a question. In your role as program director of the IMBA program at Arthur Lockjack, you in fact started with the IOB. So you saw that program go out and you would have been exposed to all kinds of assessments, all kinds of education opportunities. Yeah. Most of the Caribbean's in-place managers probably passed through your hands in some way or the other, because of your position at the, I mean, I've had the pleasure of working with you as an adjunct lecturer there, with you as my program director. And you would have seen many assessments. And I would like you to just speak to our audiences about what was different, and I'm talking technically here, in terms of, we had 3 assessments. We had the life transition assessment, we had the financial coaching, and lastly, we had the wellness. What is the difference with the Essentials Toolkit, the assessments in the Essential Toolkit, that really makes you have tools to allow you to go forward, to recreate yourself to go forward, based on these 3 assessments?
For me, the very stark difference was the holistic integration of different parts of the human life. Very often, one does assessments based on their profession or based on personality types, or stuff that people are using for HR planning and so on, and even for interviews and so on. Then maybe when you go by your dentist or your doctor, you do some questionnaire based on that. And then when you are treating with your finances, you might go through some assessment there. So for me, having them all together as one experience really challenged me to think differently, in a different way. And you would not, I mean, you're a one holistic human being. Compartmentalization is necessary for convenience, or for content delivery, or for just to live life. But really and truly, we do so many things at the same time. We are so many things at the same time. So forcing me to think in myself in that integrated way, and then you're not leaving with, well, I have a set of things to do for this, and I have a set of things to do for that area, and then I have another set of things to do for another area. You're leaving it one roadmap that speaks to the human being. And I think the ability of the assessment to speak to the integrated reality of living a life, as opposed to being a doctor or a lawyer, or then I'm looking to buy some insurance, or I need to lose some weight. Yeah, you know, I mean, at some form or fashion, you do all of those things in a different, or in a different set of discrete experiences, but to have them all brought together, and it really it sounds strange, but it challenged me to think as myself as one person, as one being, as opposed to a conglomerate with separate parts broken up. So I think, yeah, just being the head office, true. So I think that, I mean, in terms of you know, quality and design is, I mean, there's no difference with anything I've taken anywhere else. But I think the most stark benefit is the need to think of yourself as one integrated human being, and then think that way. So you're no longer compartmentalizing or repressing. Well, we'll get to that later, or I don't want to think about that now. It's too inconvenient to think about that. You have to think about it, and you have to take stock, and then you have a more realistic platform for not just making decisions, but for taking action. If it's abstract and intellectual, you could rationalize your way out of doing nothing. But when it all comes together and you realize that, okay, this is the next phase of my life I'm dealing with, not just a set of ideas to debate and to slice and dice, you know, it makes the imperative to action more real and more proximate.
All right. And if I could ask you to drill down a little bit, what was different about each of them? So in the life transition, tell me the one thing that stood out for you, the one thing that stood out in the financial assessment and coaching, and the one thing that stood out in the wellness aspect of it.
I think the interesting thing was that for most of them, or for all the assessments, most of the questions or the information required were not new. It's not that, I mean, yes, in some detail, you didn't have it down to the last, you know, $100 or the last point on your cholesterol reading or whatever it is. But I think if I'm to take them one by one, the psychometric really, it gave your own inner compass, or your own conscious, a little more structure, a little more voice, a little more context to speak to you. Because again, some of these things aren't new. You're thinking, if you're thinking about your life as you live it to some degree at all the time. So, but okay, maybe I should think more about this, or okay, maybe I'm overemphasizing this versus neglecting that. Maybe I need to, you know, think a little more about certain things. So it's like it got into your head, not just as a set of 30, 40 questions to tick off, but it really became a live accompaniment to your own thinking, to your own meditation, to your own user education, to metacognition, about how you're examining your own life. So I think that guidance, that personalized guidance, was almost like having a counselor or guru in your room talking to you. Where in fact it wasn't that. It was just a well-designed tool that spoke to your life. With regard to the financial assessment, again, as I probably keep saying, at one phase in your life cycle, you're buying a house. At another phase, you're buying insurance. Another phase, you're buying a car or whatever it is. And after you do those things, they go into automatic. You just gotta make payment for X years once a month, and you don't think about it again. But I think the ability of the assessment to pull all of these different decisions and all the implications into one kind of dashboard to say, okay, all these different decisions have resulted in you being here. The implications are like this. And if you want to sustain a lifestyle or or whatever you want to do, scale up, scale down, as the case may be. These are some of the things you're going to have to look at. And it's not a case of, well, I'll think about insurance at some point. I'll think about investments at some point. I'll think about my taxes at some point. I think about, you know, what am I near, cash versus hard things to convert to cash. At some other point, you have to think about it and have a holistic picture as to what is the data in one place that I need to make the decisions, and the ability of that assessment to pull all of that data together into one decision-making place, dashboard, was the real benefit of that one for me. Nutrition and fitness, well, that was both fun and challenging. Again, we all know the right things, you know, sleep, exercise, drink water, balanced diet, no excesses. We all know these things intellectually, but again, having them brought together, then having to do some exercises and write down some measurements and metrics and so on, it really kind of brings the matter home. It reinforces the kinesthetic part of it. Is that okay? This is how you're eating, but you know, can you stand on one leg for how long? Yeah. And that kind of reinforced the message. I mean, you almost didn't need much coaching after that. But I think, again, we pursue career, we pursue education, we pursue training, we pursue many things, and we overlook the basic body that we walk around in. If that isn't working well, everything else we're chasing, we can't give maximum attention to, or we can't enjoy. And you know, if we're working hard, so hard that by 60 we have invested in a heart attack, what's the point? And I think that's, again, we know these things, we watch the movies, we hear the stories, but having all of them brought together under these three assessments makes decision making, you know, not just financially based, or not just, well, I would like to do this, or not just, I want to open a business. So if whatever you want to do has to involve all of you, and at the very basic building block is your health, whatever you choose to do or not do after our transitions, we're going to have to be healthy enough to enjoy it. It's going to impact our finances, our quality of life, those who we love. And bringing them all together, again, removes us from abstract thinking into this is reality. And I think the reality check in a supportive and a constructive environment. So it's not a matter of, oh my God, life is over. I'm a wreck. I've wasted the last 20 years. No, it's not a matter of that. This is where we are. How can we move forward to reach where we want to go? Because with life expectancy being what it is, the quality of healthcare, the access to information that we have, there's no reason why any of us cannot live 20 to 30 more years in a healthy and productive way.
Definitely.
If we take the steps now.
Yes.
And that's why we say the 5.8G. So it takes you from 50, 80 and beyond.
Get reclined on the rocking chair at 80. Not
not before then.
So Michael, what can Guyana expect with this collaboration with ActionINVEST, bringing the toolkit directly to them and having our team supporting and taking them forward? What can they expect?
Well, I mean, the exciting part is that transition for the rest of the world experiencing this crisis, transition is pointing a direction in a kind of bleak, uncertain, almost gloomy, apocalyptic.
Everybody from a high and moving down.
In the sense of Guyana, we're transitioning into a whole new stream of opportunities, having the opportunities to learn from our example in Trinidad and Tobago as to how, how not to do it, and the reality of the richness that already exists in their onshore economy in Guyana. I mean, you know, flora, fauna, the environment. I mean, whichever way, the green Guyana that we were hearing about 10 years ago now has the opportunity to really be accelerated given the offshore economy that's going to be increasing. And I think navigating the transition in this context is an exciting prospect. There's no doom and gloom. There's onward and upward. There are opportunities. Whoever was thinking of heading towards the rocking chair at 65 would do well to reevaluate that and say, hey, how can I orient myself, my community, my kids, my family, the next generation? How do I position myself and those who I have influence with to really, really take advantage? I mean, like 70 years ago, Dubai was a fishing village.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Singapore, think of Singapore. Yes.
Yeah.
Singapore, all of those miracle places. Yeah.
Visionary leadership, harnessing the resources, a strong strategy led to what we see today. And while we may not be able to control those, the scale of decision making up at the highest levels, we can certainly control our own lives and how we position ourselves to take advantage of what is not is going to happen, what is happening. And there's nobody as intimately familiar with the beauty and resource of Guyana as Guyanese people. So I am very thrilled. In the sense, it's like a continuation of my career.
Yeah.
Because I would tell my students, okay, there's only so much I could tell you. This is why we have people like Vishnu coming to talk to you guys. You need there's an authenticity that has to be built and to be preserved by Guyanese people, and we're thrilled to see it happen. I'm thrilled to see it happen from a developmental point of view, as a Caribbean person, as someone who again is passionate about learning. And for Trinidad and Tobago is coming out of 100 years experience with oil and gas or petrochemicals, to keep it broad, there are lots of lessons that can be learned by our counterparts in Guyana. And there are just a whole new range of opportunities given the technologies of the 21st century, given I mean, people are now realistically talking about dying on Mars and so on. This is normal conversation.
Yes.
It wasn't 50, 60 years ago at the times of independence. So
take a trip into orbit, go on space, like let's just go see the world from the outside. That's
so the capacity, the opportunity for reinvention, creating new paradigms, living new possibilities. We don't have to be stuck with the 1960s independence things that we were, belabored with. It's a whole new opportunity. And I think for an individual, the Essentials Toolkit really gives us the launch pad from which to really launch ourselves into the 21st century. And that for me is the exciting part. And I guess that's the educator in me that will not disappear. But we can now harness it to professionals, visionary people who are thinking about their kids, which is my last comment about Vishnu. I was blown away. I maybe even think I asked my students if they observed, but when Vishnu came to talk to my students last, there was this teenager, I assume, with him. So I said, okay, this is not a staff member. And she was handing out the handouts and I think it was a copy of the Who's Who he was distributing. And I think he mentioned it was his daughter. I said, well, look, there you go. Training the next generation. If he was putting on some PR display, he would not have done that in front of his daughter. Or his daughter would have called him out. So the fact that
it's real.
The fact that he brought his daughter not just to expose her to what he does and to hear the vision like over and over again that he has for Guyana and the possibilities for entrepreneurs in the Guyanese space. That really, for me, shows that education starts at the home. It has to extend in the home. whatever we learn on the job, whatever we learn in school, has to set up our next generation for better and brighter. They must be wiser than we were. They must be wiser than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all this can start with the elements of the toolkit becoming part of a family culture.
Yeah.
Because when an adult decides, okay, I'm gonna live in a more strategic way, a more holistic way, the same way I strategize over my career to build house and send kids to school, the same way I'm gonna strategize over my health, about leaving a legacy, that mindset lived in front of kids is really gonna create the future we all want and dream for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great.
Yes, I don't think we can say it better.
But what I love and what stayed with me too is going onwards and upwards. It's not downhill, it's all up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that is so positive.
And I want to remind everyone in the few minutes we have left, and we always get into the conversation and we go off and lose track of time, is that yes, we are Connections 50 Plus is going to be available in Guyana via ActionINVEST Caribbean Incorporated, and we are starting with the Essential Toolkit. But remember, the toolkit continues. You continue. So for those of you who may not have taken advantage of the earlier opportunities, well, some of the deals are done. So sorry about that. But still, Michael has made some very, very critical points about us preparing for our next phase, our third act. And we say this third act has many parts. There's the 50 to 60, there's the 60 to 70, and 70 to 80. We can be productive and happy and vibrant at every stage. So the toolkit is available for you, and you have all of us here to help you. And again, we are so honored that ActionINVEST Caribbean Incorporated and Vishnu Doerga and Michael, thank you for really laying out to our audience who we are dealing with. And I think that is very important, because part of Connections is really, you look at the people who are around you, because at the end of the day, it's the relationships and the connections that really make the difference. And we are beyond excited. We are. Yes, Jen. So we have about 3 minutes again.
You know, I'm so proud. I'm really proud of Connections 50 Plus, our team Terri Ann, what has been done, you know, to be able to attract, you know, who's like Michael and Vishnu, to really be with us, having faith in our product, you know, to the extent that you're willing to come on board with us to market it and knowing how it can help others throughout the Caribbean. Huh? So we're starting now with Guyana, but throughout the Caribbean, and it will be the same. We are taking them upwards, not downwards. And, you know, so transition should really be an excited process. Should be filled with excitement, not fear. And Michael, when you spoke, that is the aspect I want people to. Too much fear, you have nothing to fear. They should be all excited because it's new opportunities you're going into.
Yes, everybody is invited to the launch of this fantastic event. And it is going to be online. This is going to be next Tuesday, the 22nd of December, from 5 to 5:30 in the afternoon. We're going to be streaming it on our Facebook page. It's going to be streamed on the YouTube channel. And we are also going to make available on the page all of the links. And Guyana, we're going to be closer than ever through one of your brothers, you know? Who knows, you will see Jennifer and I there at some point in time. You definitely will see Michael. And we are always available on Zoom. But again, look out for the links to the launch. You'd be free to hear more about it, and you'll get a chance to ask questions of us all. And you will also meet Dr. Doerga.
Yes.
Okay.
So at this time we're saying bye. Right?
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Connections 50.
Thanks again, Michael. Okay.
Okay, bye. It was
Bye
great.
for now. Right.
Guyana, Trinidad, Barbados, Grenada, St. Vincent,
Anguilla.
In Lucia, no, I need they are going up. You
Oh,
work
okay.
him up than me. St. Lucia, Dominica, Martinique, Guadeloupe. Yes, I know I mix them up. They alternate. Then Antigua, Angola, St. Martin, St. Bart's, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Cuba, Jamaica, Belize. Barbados, did I call you?
I'm not sure. But we will be in touch.
Guyana family, Caribbean is moving on. We are upwards and onwards from Belize straight through to Guyana. So stay tuned. We'll see you all on Tuesday afternoon at 5 for our launch. Bye.
Bye.
50 Plus Tribe and followers from TNT and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus Wednesday Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like and share our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback.
Bye for now.